Okay, I've heard the podcast, and I said, "Are Don and Tron? Are you married to each other?"
That is
But
pretty
it's a
funny.
compliment because you play off each other like you've been like a married couple. So that's a compliment.
Rick, if you love that, you'll love the early episodes.
Don't even.
I'd like to marry him just so I could divorce him.
So she could crush me.
Damn.
Exactly.
Wow, that was hurtful.
Hello and welcome everyone to a very special episode of the Jesties podcast, episode 24. My name is Tron.
Alex here.
Big D!
Yeah.
And we got live coming to you a wonderful, delightful interview.
Yeah, very delightful.
Where Dawn negged our guests. Well, you'll have to see how Dawn managed to
loved it.
somehow bully
Yeah.
a celebrity.
Yeah.
But yeah, we bring you now to Laura and Rick Hall.
Enjoy.
I may have to correct you on some of your farm terminology. I just might have to. I don't. So
Are you talking about my farm terminology?
no, somebody was talking about shucking corn and pulling the leaves and the chaff off of it. And I'm like, no, it's the shucks. You pull off the shucks of the corn.
I think that was
That's why it's called
Chris.
Yeah, I think that was
Grew up on a
Chris.
farm.
Yeah.
Chris, and he's not here.
You can't get that past it.
I have a farm.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I grew up on a farm, and then I bought my neighbor's farm when I was in my 20s. I bought my neighbor's farm, which
Wow.
I can't believe I was responsible enough to do that. Okay,
Wow, Rick,
I
a
don't
farm
know
at
what
20.
I-
That's crazy.
Yeah, what a crazy
Yeah,
story.
What do
you-
Those corn shucks.
what do you grow on your farm?
corn,
Okay.
Just
corn,
corn.
yeah,
You're the corn expert
and soy.
then.
corn and soy. We used to have a lot of hogs, and I wrote my first one-man show was called Pig Boy, about growing up on a pig farm.
Pig boy.
Big boy.
Write
Wow.
what you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait. What was the premise of Pig Boy? Like just.
It was just stories about the people in the small town I grew up in, and they're actually, I thought that, like, who would want to hear these? But these characters that I talk about sound like people I've made up because they're so quirky. The dead truck driver that comes and picks up your dead animals.
Okay, no,
guy.
I actually know that to be a real thing because my dad lives in Alabama and there is a guy that is his job is to just pick up dead animals that like people call him or he'll just find them and he just picks them up on the road. That's still a thing.
The animal coroner.
Exactly, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, a rendering plant where they make them into fertilizer, dog food, and stuff. So
La 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 la.
I know, exactly.
Dawn, earmuffs.
That's so metal. Oh my god.
Yeah, vegetarians beware.
Right.
Yeah.
When we used to do the show, like we'd do the show in the Midwest, and he would talk a little bit about the dead truck, and then another story about working at a butchering plant, and
meat packing.
plant.
Right.
Wow.
Small town Midwest, they'd be like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
Then like
Yeah.
you do it in LA or something, or even in Chicago in the city, and people would be like, "Oh my God."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Dawn, you grew up in Chicago. Did you see a lot of those, butchering places?
I did not grow up on a farm.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe you saw them or no, like the butcher
No,
places.
don't know.
They're rendering plants, Alex.
yeah.
Rendering.
Yeah.
And also Chicago did used to be meat packers to the world.
Right.
That was their catchphrase.
It was. They had
And they
slaughterhouses on the
Yeah, on the south
in the
side.
city.
there
Yeah.
were-
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. In Beverly
But now they
Hills,
turned them all
Chicago.
into apartments. It's fine.
My question at this point is, what's different between what we're doing right now and the podcast? It's not that
Not a whole lot, really.
Yeah. That's pretty
Well-
much it, Rick.
Tron is not bullying you,
Yeah.
so
That's not. It never happens.
and Tron still has a shirt on.
I'm
so
very
there's
nice.
a big
I'm
difference.
pleasant always. But thank you all so much for coming by. Again, we really appreciate you stopping by on the pod. Laura and Rick Hall. Yeah. Of Who's
Yay.
Line and wonderful improv fame. we have a upcoming session with them, the workshop. We're almost sold out. I don't know if Alex had a chance to told you. We have like 2 tickets left. It's wonderful.
Yeah, we've got like 3 spots left overall for both of them. So
I have to admit something. I have bought 8 of the tickets, so it looks like it's sold out.
I should have known. I'm like, Smiley Johnson. That's not a real name. What the hell is this?
Pig boy.
Yeah, Pig. Last name Boy. Come on. How'd you get a credit card?
But to start it off, maybe we could y'all could introduce yourselves and then kind of give everybody listening like a backstory on how y'all met.
I'm Laura Hall. We met back at Second City in Chicago. So
Nice.
we're originally Midwesterners. We lived in LA for years, and now we're back in the Midwest. It's sort of our big trajectory. So we met working at Second City, and in the touring company, and I was the musical director, and he was an actor. And we had a road romance, which never works out. Because if something goes wrong, you're stuck in the van together
Right.
with 6 people. Yeah.
Laura, nothing was going to go wrong, baby.
Oh.
You'll never find another love like mine.
I'm just imagining this as Rick's like pickup line in the bus. Like, nothing's gonna go wrong, baby.
It's in the bus.
Yeah.
Right.
What happens in the bus stays in the bus.
Well, and actually, I remember the day that I got the call that I'd been hired. Don DiPolo was directing the auditions, and he called me and he said, "Come and do the improv set tonight." And I went backstage at Second City, and I saw all these cast members, and I'm like, okay, these are the people I'm touring with. I'm going to get to know them. I like that piano player.
And then he followed me like a puppy dog.
Aww.
Nice.
People can't hear, but I'm nodding my head. I did. But you know the rule, Laura. Don't feed a stray dog, or it won't go away.
Oh my God. Just imagine that as another pickup line. Be like, Rick, just said, you got those bangers.
Yeah. Hey, girls, I'm like a stray dog. You feed me, and I'll stay with you.
Yeah, I'll stick around.
I'm like a stray dog. I might have fleas. Exactly.
But take a chance.
Take a chance on me. Oh,
Just so you know, I've been dewormed.
Yeah, if you know what I mean.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
So how did musical improv even get started?
Like for me personally, or on Earth?
On Earth and you.
Actually, Laura, you were kind of there for the nexus of it.
Well, yeah. So when I got hired at Second City, Fred Kaz, the late great Fred Kaz, was the musical director on the main stage there. And Fred kind of created how music works with improv. He really, because he was at Second City, he started in the early 60s. So he basically was like part of developing the entire form of music with improv. And then I got to learn, I got hired first as a waitress. And so
you were the coat check girl first.
Yeah, first I was a coat check girl.
Rick remembers.
And, yeah, exactly. And I was still in college, and so I could do my homework during, that's such a Chicago job, isn't it, right?
The coat check girl.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Coat check? I'll be your coat check girl.
Yeah. Here's your ticket.
Yeah. So then I became a waitress, and I was a terrible waitress because I was just so intrigued by what Fred was doing at the piano. And so, I'm serving the drinks, and I'd be like, oh, that was so cool. I'd completely get distracted. So I did kind of learn from the best, learn from the creator. I was really lucky. And then once I started playing for the touring company, I got little or no training. It was pretty much like, well, you've seen Fred do it.
Yeah.
Go on.
Throw you into the deep end.
Improvise.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Figure it out.
Actually, you got your first actual touring company when the musical director and the director got in a big fight during a rehearsal that you were just watching, and the musical director stomped out and they go, Laura, you wanted to go, you want to do it? And she was,
You're in.
Yeah.
The understudy gets the
Wow.
job.
Yeah.
It was the understudy got the job because I was the only one there.
That could do it.
I was the only one there.
Wow.
But
Laura, if you're just going to brag, Laura, we don't want to hear it.
You can
But I
brag.
still had one more year of college. It was the summer. We mostly toured colleges and universities. So in the summer before, we would get together and talk about the year ahead. And we were doing, the touring company does like a best of show. You're not creating your own show, right? So we would get together and talk about what scenes we were going to do and stuff. And I was just supposed to be the occasional sub. And they're like, do you want to go on the road basically full time? And I was like, I got another year of college. So I talked my the department head into letting me do it as like a quote unquote internship.
Mm.
And then we would do shows, and all the cast would go out and hang out with the audience, the college students, and party. And Laura would go back to her room and study.
Oh.
Wow.
Good girl.
I was
Wow.
very disciplined.
Yeah.
I was a very
So Laura, I'm curious, when you're in college, you're doing Second City at the same time. How did your family feel about you doing improv and like kind of like leaving the college world behind and focusing on that?
Well, for one thing, growing up in Chicago, Second City is such a big cultural influence there.
It's true.
So it wasn't like they were like, we've never heard of this. What is it? You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And they were like, wow, you're getting, it is a job like if you're going to do improv, it's the place to do it.
It's legit.
Yeah, it's legit. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It had the history and all that, but I didn't leave college. I did actually graduate because I was doing it. I figured out how to kind of juggle the two.
Oh.
And I did graduate, and I think only once have I ever actually used that degree where like, I want to play for this improv group. They're not like, do you have a college degree?
Yeah.
But it was more just the idea of finishing it. You know what I mean? Like I'd gone that far and I just wanted to finish it. And I certainly have used what I learned quite a bit in my career. So it didn't feel like abandoning. It felt like a jumping off point.
Good.
Laura, I have a question now, and it's never occurred to me right now, and we're not in the same room, by the way. I'm in Chicago. Laura's in LA, taping more of Who's Line. Right. So I have a question I want to ask my wife in front of the audience here. Was I part of your independent study?
Oh.
Our romance?
You'll never find.
Did I make it into your report at all? And one of the actors is really good.
Yeah.
Rick was the
I
final
actually
exam.
had to keep a journal, was part of my thing. And I threw it away when I moved. I can't believe it. I so wish I had it.
Dang.
You needed that for the book.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was so much about me going like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure this out. And,
Right.
like, I should have kept it.
We lost a lot of stuff when we went to Chicago. You threw away your journal. I couldn't bring my wheelbarrow.
I couldn't bring my pigs with me.
From all the corn, exactly.
All my shucks of corn.
I think what they're referring to is my farm in downstate Illinois, and that I have agrarian roots.
Yeah.
So
couldn't bring all my bales of hay and all that fun stuff.
Exactly.
But now,
Laura. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, now you're sort of celebrities and working in Hollywood.
Certified celebrities.
Sort of.
Wow.
Well, I mean,
She's
not
really,
like,
really trying to nag
not
in
like
this
on the
interview.
cover of People magazine every week, but you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're
We are
working
sort of
artists. And,
celebrities.
yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're low-level celebrities. So. Although somebody who I haven't talked to, I actually don't know that well, sent me a message through my website. I just saw you on Arrested Development. I can't, I'm like, oh, good. I live on in reruns. Good.
Wait, which part of I am a longtime fan of that series. What part of Arrested Development are you in?
The casting director's assistant was a friend of mine. She called me and said, we need a photographer for a scene at the beach. The family's getting a picture taken and they get in a big argument. And so I had like 3 lines. And actually, if you see the scene, I don't really know how to use the camera. I know the basics of like focus and rewind, winding and everything. So I take the picture and then they get in a big argument, and I don't want to be in the background of this shot all afternoon futzing with the camera, not knowing what I'm doing. So they start arguing. I just walked out of the shot and nobody told me anything. They're like, and then like an hour later, the director goes, hey, do we need the photographer anymore? And they go, oh, no, he's not in the shot. And I'm like, okay, I got to go home.
Great.
Okay, just for future reference, if you have a part like that where you need to know something, YouTube. It's what all the kids use these days. You want to know something?
Was before YouTube.
Yeah. Well, now you can use TikTok. Now you can use TikTok to figure out how to use a camera.
Now you can do it. Right.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, it was a cold, windy day at the beach, and I didn't want to be there they were not paying me. They paid me $230
for like an afternoon.
Well, it was an 8-hour day if they wanted to keep me that long. But since I walked out of the shot, they didn't need me in the background for anything. So I was there like an hour and 10 minutes. So,
wow. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So,
but I've used improv. a lot. I've done Curb Your Enthusiasm. I did had a nice fun part on that. And I did one of the most fun shows I ever did was a show called Factory that Dave Pasquazi and Mitch Rouse and a bunch of Chicago guys did out in LA. And they asked me to do basically a walk-on character that they ended up needing me because they said, basically, you're the asshole at the factory and we make fun of you. And
typecasting.
Yeah, real typecasting.
There you go. There you go. But then they realized they needed me, like Frank Burns on MASH or something. They needed me. So, and again, the money wasn't good. My agent goes, you should turn this down. And I go, wait a minute. I want to work with Pasquazi and Mitch Rouse and Jay Liggett and all those guys. Yeah. I'm like, no, I want to do this. So that was one of the most fun shows. And it was all improv. We just go on to the set with an idea of what needed to happen, like Curb Your Enthusiasm. This is what needs to happen in the scene. Improvised.
So it was just like you had an outline with like ideas, and it's just like, hey, we just got to get to these points somehow.
Right. We have to hit this or that.
Yeah.
Right. And by the end of the scene, well, like I had to fire Larry David. He came and worked at my my car dealership as a salesman.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
Yeah. So he was so terrible, I had to fire him. And so we knew at the end of the scene, I had to fire him, and that's all we knew.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I love that show. I love Curb Your Enthusiasm.
So, Laura, when did the Who's Line opportunity come into your life?
Well, it was ages ago. It was probably 25 years ago when we first started. And a friend that I had, that I knew from Second City, that I toured with in a different company. Because, at Second City, the musicians stayed a lot longer and the touring companies kind of moved through, right? So we ended up working with a lot of different people. But Ron West, who is in LA now and teaches and does all sorts of stuff, but he was one of the producers when the British, because, it was originally a British show.
Right.
They came over, they were like, do you know any American musicians? And he recommended me and then 2 other people. And I was the first one to audition, and they never auditioned the others, which was quite lovely.
Man, it's quite the compliment.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I got to audition with Brad Sherwood and Wayne Brady. So nice. It's that we all made each other look good. You know what I mean? It's that thing, that the beauty of improv that you can say, it's just about making each other look good.
Exactly.
So we originally had 6 episodes, and we had the British host. Clive,
interesting.
They were sort of hybrid. What's Clive's last name? Oh, I'm such an idiot.
Just say Clive.
My old pal Clive. So they used the British host. So Ryan was the big impetus for this because he'd done the British shows, right? And then he said, I think Americans would love this. I think we should do it in America. So they brought the British host over. It was sort of a hybrid, and then they used that as the test market for the American show.
Great.
And people liked it so much with this British guy that most of them didn't know who he was. And so then they're like, well, now then once Drew Carey's the host, who was Drew's show was the top show on ABC at the time, and one of the top shows in the country.
Drew Carey show.
So it's it's like if people like this with this British host, they'll love it with Drew. But we didn't know when we did those first 6, we had no idea if we were going to get picked up or anything. And in fact, every year we never know if we're going to get picked up. But now for sure we're canceled.
Oh yeah.
No questioning.
Yeah.
I see comments
you're
from.
You're going to shoot this season, and it will air, but you're canceled. You're not going to do any more after that.
Exactly. So we're shooting this season now. It's going to air probably starting in the late spring and go through the fall. But we know we're canceled, which is really weird.
Yeah, this is the finale run.
Yeah,
sure.
I would see comments from people saying, "Oh, they're canceled again."
Yeah, quote unquote again.
Who knows? Maybe we'll go somewhere else.
Change the name.
Yeah, maybe it'll go back to England. Yeah, never know.
Who knows? And I'll go to London and shoot it. Yeah.
Now, Laura, I was curious, since we're on the Whose Line track, since you had, being on the show for so long and it got so big, and, I personally love that show, and I started watching it when I was I think 10 or 11 or something. And I'd always, wonder how they did it and everything. But I was curious because, being in improv for so long and kind of hearing about the process of how Whose Line was made, because it's like a long filming day, for one episode. And sometimes you got to do the same game over again because the camera angle wasn't right, or somebody came in and the shot didn't look good, so you have to do the whole thing all over again. I was curious, do you have any favorite kind of behind the scenes memories of Whose Line that didn't make it into the show, just maybe hanging out with the cast, or just something interesting happening, or just just favorite behind the scenes memories of the show?
Well, first of all, I do have to say it's a long tape day, but we get 3 or 4 episodes out of it.
Oh, 3 or 4. Oh, okay. That's good.
So we'll do the one we just did Saturday, 22 games. Some of them will be a game like Scenes from a Hat, right? Where they're pulling. So Aisha might pull 10 different prompts out from the hat, and they might each riff on it. You know what I mean? So that game might go on for a really long time when we record it. And then they might break it up into 2 games that they're going to put in 2 episodes, right? They might go, we'll use these 4 because they have really good prompts. We'll use these 3 because they were really good. We'll toss the other 3. So it's sort of like we're recording more than we need, and especially those ones that are kind of, I call modular like that, right? You can kind of put them together how you want.
Right.
They work really well that way. That, and props is another one, right? Where they're
Tron's
favorite.
My favorite game in the world.
All-time favorite
That's
game.
Fantastic.
Excellent. So for each show that you see where each side maybe does 5 or 4, 5, say, they might have done 12, and they take the best 5 and they put the funniest one last, right? Because funny always goes last, right? So it's not that we're not really improvising. It's that they're editing it to get the most out of what we did, because not everything is going to hit. Right. That's just the reality of it, even with such really great improvisers as these guys.
Although they've been working together long enough that it is amazing what the hit rate is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We did a greatest hits on Saturday. So again, you take usually 3 songs for greatest hits, and we did 6. Really common. We would usually record 5 or 6. We did 6, and I think all 6 are good. Wow. So they'll make 2 of them out of it.
Nice.
They'll just make it into 2 different episodes. The funny thing, and people are like, don't you change clothes? No, we do not.
Yeah.
We don't change clothes. We don't change the audience. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It might be 3 episodes where we're wearing the same clothes and nobody cares.
Yeah, just good stuff is good stuff.
Right. So anyway, so just that's that about the logistics of it.
Right.
And then there is a tedious part at the end because then Aisha has to go back and do more intros and stuff in case, so then they can piece the show together however they want.
Mm-hmm. I bring up the behind the scenes stuff because we know somebody who was at the taping on Saturday who got to see the whole process the whole way through. And maybe you could confirm, but she said that, since it's a long tape day and you have to play certain games over and over again, we heard that Ryan could get a little snippy with the producers when he's had to do a game over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
And that's been the whole time. And the game that he really doesn't like playing, and he's got a reputation for it.
Oh, Hoedown?
He just doesn't like playing it.
Yeah. That's very clear on the show.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, he doesn't, he's known Dan, the creator of the show. He's known him for, 30, 35 years. He's like, he's going to say what he wants.
Right.
Brian's not known for holding back what he wants to say, anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when do you two work together?
Rick
What?
Yes.
What?
What does that mean?
Do you work together?
Actually, we worked together a lot. Like over the years, I mean, when I did my one-man show, Laura was on stage with me and scored it. And now we even do some stuff where we improvise together where Laura's not just behind the piano. She'll jump up and be a character in the scene. And
we teach together, obviously.
And then we teach together, and we'll be teaching in a couple weeks.
And how did the workshops come about?
I'm not even exactly sure how it happened. I think it was that, I would get emails and people would be like, can you coach our team or whatever? Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I've never taught this before. So I just went and sat in on some other people's classes and watched how they taught it and went, oh, I could do that. Like,
this looks pretty easy.
So our daughter was doing the summer camp thing at Second City in LA. They would do the summer camps.
Right.
And I would come in and I'd be like, oh, my daughter's in the class. Can I come? And they'd be like, sure.
Can I come spy on your teaching?
Yeah. Take some notes. Take some notes.
I'm taking notes. Right. Yeah. But,
and you also learned a lot from people like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We teach our style is really, and I'm not bragging when I say this, it's something we work hard on, is we really create a safe space so people, because we know a lot of people are really scared of this. We did a music improv show with a bunch of old Second City people, and I mean like have been in the trenches. They know they know how to improvise.
Experience. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really. And the pros, and a couple of them were too freaked out to do it. Oh, wow. And one of them, our friend Ruth Rudnick, was in the audience, and she goes, no, I don't want to come on stage. And about halfway through the show, we said, hey, Ruth, you want to come up? She goes, yes.
Finally.
Well, I can attest to your making it a safe space and comfortable and welcoming. I mean, it's wonderful, and nobody should be afraid to use their voice the way you encourage.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we were very fortunate that we got to do the workshop in September, and because it was definitely a lot more comfortable than I would have expected. Because like I've done musical improv with like Second City and other places, but with you guys it was very much just like we get that some people may have never done this before, so it was very accessible, whereas you're at like Second City, they kind of expect you to know to kind of like hit the ground running basically. But with you guys, it just felt like, we could just kind of ease into it, and it just felt a lot more fun that way.
Well, good. Well, we came up with an idea of a game that really I think is a good icebreaker, and where we all have family stories that we tell.
Oh, absolutely.
And so just sing that story.
I have a more broad-based question because, earlier we mentioned that props, it's my favorite game in the world. Like, I get a lot of joy. I'm an attorney, but I, do improv as just a fun thing that I love to do. And I get a lot of joy out of playing those kind of games with my family. And, like, in reality, Whose Line was very formative for me as a performer and as a person that, loves improv. It was my first exposure to improv. It's again, it has changed and altered the course of my life in a way. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to you, Laura, especially because I definitely saw you on the show. But again, Rick, too, for all your contributions to improv as a whole and everything that y'all have been able to accomplish together. For both of you, I'd be curious, though, y'all have had a wonderful career doing improv. What would be the thing that you feel like you learned most about improv, or your perception of improv as throughout the years, why it's still engaging for you, or what you feel like it brings value into your life and into the life of others?
Can I start, Laura?
Yes.
Because you don't know what to say, so I'll.
You must be a married couple.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Are you guys married?
Married?
You sound like a married couple. I don't know why.
Actually, Tron and I are married.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Actually, when I got hired, when I started doing improv, I had no training at all. I took a class with John Michael Michalski, Jeff Michalski's brother, who he and his wife, Jane Morris, started the ETC at Second City. But anyway, I took a class with John, and after the first class, he said, "Hey, I'm starting a cast. Do you want to work in it with our cast?" So I really took one improv class, and then took a few from him. But I didn't know the rules of improv, and when I found out the rules of improv, I tanked. I was in my head all the time. I was thinking about, am I denying? Am I
nobody?
And so what I really did was to come back from that was to just start listening more. And in LA, I worked with Dan Castellaneta and Jeff and Jane, as I said before, some of the veterans of improv. And we do scenes sometimes where we start with nothing. We just look at each other and play off of what we see and their body language. And it really makes you watch and listen so much more. And I know it's so basic, but listening is the key. Because I went through some phases, especially at Second City, where you're trying to build with the improv is how you write the show that you're going to do next year.
Right.
And so you start thinking scenically all the time instead of just being in the moment. I did, at least. And I had to come back from that and just be in the moment more. I think that's one thing like a cycle I went through.
Yeah. Seems like
I don't even know if that answers your question.
I mean, it totally does. It was a long, winding question, Rick. Trust me. I halfway through it was just me fanboying out for a second, and then halfway I was like, "Oh, I have to ask a question."
But Rick, I do have to ask: will you still enjoy playing the walk-in, walk-out game from our September show? The follow the leader game.
Okay, what they're saying is I was so terrible at it that they would have to say on stage, "No, you leave now."
Follow the lever. And you know what was so funny? I don't think many people know this story, but for that September show, we were all rehearsing. I think it was the day before the show or something, and the guy hosting the show was like, "Hey, I think we should play Follow the Lever." It was like you, him, and Chris, and I think you said that sounds great, and then you guys did it, and the rehearsal was just going so bonkers, and then but I don't know if it was you or the host. It was just you know what, we should just go for it in the show anyway, and then we did.
Oh, there was a point where I was like, "You guys, I don't even know how to do this. It's appalling. I am so bad at it. And I think the audience liked seeing me bad at it. So.
It was the chaos of it that people just started to really like after a while. It was even they were just like, "What the hell is going on?"
Well, thanks for dredging up that traumatic moment.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I always love bringing up that moment.
Laura, what about you? Reflections on improv after your long and illustrious career?
I would say the biggest thing that like I've learned, and that also applies to so many other things, either other musical projects like playing in a band, or songwriting, whatever, doing musical theater, any of it, because I do a lot of different things. Is that idea that it's really about making each other look good. Right. And whenever I'm anxious or self-conscious or nervous or whatever about performing, in any context, whether I'm singing, Rick and I used to be in a band together. And so if I'm singing in the band and I'm having one of those days where I'm like, oh, is this going well, or am I doing okay, or whatever, is that it's not about me. It's right. About, right. And if I put my energy towards the other players on stage with me, it's always going to be okay.
Yeah, it'll
right.
Work out
We're always
so much
going to
better.
look out for each other. Yeah, and it's not about me, which is a lovely thing that it's not about me.
Exactly.
Great advice. Great observations.
Yep.
Yep.
Now it's
Laura. I just want to give you permission to always say it's not about me. It's about my husband.
That'll be the title of the podcast. It's not about me.
It's about my husband.
Now, I think I had a question, Laura, because I don't think a lot of people know about this, but you brought up like writing music earlier. I did a little research.
Ooh.
A little research, and I found that you haven't just written music and stuff, but you've also just like written like screenplay and stuff like that. Like I saw you and Rick did an indie film, a slice of pie together a long time ago, and I was curious, like, what made you want to go from like staying in music and like being in a band and all that stuff to go into like screenplay writing?
Okay, wait. I didn't write the screenplay. I wrote the score.
Oh, you wrote the score. Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Any of those movie credits, I either wrote a score or a song or both.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it was still music.
Oh.
I don't think I'm up for writing a screenplay.
Sure?
Well, when we came to LA, you said, "I think I'm done doing improv because it's a dead end." There's, you can only go so far. Yeah. But,
like improv is the niche, and then being an improv musician is the niche in the niche, right? So I was like, I really have to explore other things, and so I wasn't doing it at all for a few years until I got the call to audition for Who's Line.
Right.
And then I was like, oh.
Yeah, so even like kind of like getting away from that, because when you're doing music for an improv show, obviously you make everything up in the moment based on what's going on. But like, would you say like that creative process still like kind of translates when you write music for like film or whatever, or would you say there's a big difference there? Like I was curious like what your big inspiration is when you write your own music.
Well, I think having improv, it absolutely helps with that process. That I think it makes me like freer in terms of my songwriting. If I have an idea, a lot of times I'll just sit down and like turn on the recorder and just improvise a bunch of lyrics. And then you're going back and refining it, right? You're polishing it. But improv is such a great way to just generate a lot of ideas.
Free flowing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And the same with when I've done film scores, I'll do it's called the spotting session with the director and producer, and they talk about, we'd like music to come in here and go out here, and we want it to have this kind of arc, this emotional arc or whatever. And so then I'll take that piece and I'll just improvise on it and record it. Just improvise on the piano and record it. And then I might do it like 4 more times and improvise different ways. And then I'll watch it and see how it feels and which one is closest. And then I start refining that. So like having the ability to just play and then kind of sort it out later is, I think, is useful for any kind of creative project that I'm involved in.
Right, I agree. Yeah.
It also helps you handle disasters on stage too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
right? Like you're playing in a band and it's supposed to go like this, and then the singer, cuts to the third verse when you're supposed to be going to the first chorus or whatever. Like even those kinds of things, to be able to go, yeah, okay.
What's your most memorable band story?
Ooh.
Oh.
What's your band called? First of all, I didn't even know about the band. This is exciting.
Oh, well, our band was called the Sweet Potatoes. We haven't been together for a few years.
Farm reference.
Okay, more farm
A Midwest reference.
And it was, it was very Americana. I got to play acoustic guitar in it, which I love.
Oh.
And ukulele and, accordion. Like I got to play all my other instruments that I don't, normally get to play.
Nice.
And it was me and Rick, and then our friend Kelly McLeod, who was in that movie Slice of Pie that you were just referring to.
Nice.
That was how they kind of connected. And then Rick, when they finished working on the movie, Rick was like, "You should write with her. You guys like so much of the same kind of music."
And what did you say, Laura?
And I said, "You're absolutely no." Actually, at first I
You
said,
didn't. No, you didn't. You
at
said
first I said, just because people like the same kind of music doesn't mean they can write together. And
you
so
said you can't put two people together and expect them to write music. It's like saying, "Oh, look, he's handsome and she's pretty. Why don't you make babies?" And then Laura and Kelly got together the first session, and Kelly saw a piece of music sitting on Laura's piano that had been unfinished for years, and they finished it that day. And Laura has to say, "What, Laura?"
And that's when I said, "You're right."
And you have it in writing, and it's framed on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. I have
Exactly.
evidence.
Right, and dated, since it's the one time.
Right. Right next to that certificate that says Laura stole Joe Walsh's guitar or something. What was that about?
Oh,
Heard
yeah.
something about a guitar?
We heard something about that.
Tell Joe Walsh's guitar story, Laura.
Okay. So we were doing, for a while, I did Drew Carey and the Improv All-Stars was sort of our group that came out of Who's Line. Now there's like lots of different groups, right? Like Who's Live, and then Colin does stuff, and Brad. Anyway, so we were doing Drew Carey and the Improv All-Stars in Vegas, and Drew is friends with Joe Walsh, and so Joe Walsh sat in with me and Linda Taylor,
Okay.
which was just an amazing, mind-boggling thing. But then after he was done, we were driving back to LA, and he was flying, and he said, "Can you take my guitar? It's this like vintage, exotic, fancy guitar, and I hate to take it on the plane." It is hard to take guitars on the plane.
Right.
It's true.
Actually, Joe Walsh said, "Hey, you guys are driving. Do you mind taking my guitar?"
You want to tell the story, Rick?
No.
He's dying to tell this story.
Yeah, he's like, I can't wait to be like Joe Walsh character.
So we carried Joe's guitar back to LA, and we guarded it. Like we stopped to get a bite to eat in Bakersfield or somewhere, and we parked the car right outside the window of the restaurant. They said, "You want to sit back in the back?" We go, "No, we want to sit in this window."
Right by the window.
And here's the thing. We were such doofuses. We had Joe Walsh's guitar in our house for 2 or 3 days till his assistant came and picked it up. And we never opened it and took pictures with it or played with it. We never
We were like
touched it.
afraid of it. We were like, "Don't go near it.
Yeah.
Something
You'll let
might
a curse
happen."
out or something.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Funny.
Hey, you didn't play my guitar, did you?
I see fingerprints. Somebody touched it. Oh, awesome.
Laura also had some kids' videos that were a little low-budget project, and Laura wrote the music for them. And there was a character in it, in the videos. It was called The Wheels on the Bus, the videos. because it was based around the song "The Wheels on the Bus," which Laura wrote. No,
She can take the credit.
Exactly.
but somebody knew somebody who knew Roger Daltrey, and he came to our little garage studio in North Hollywood and recorded in our little stupid studio.
Wow.
And if you ever wonder what you'll say to like the most famous person you may ever meet, he came into our house. We had done a remodel of the kitchen, and he was doing a remodel, and he was asking me about, hey, where'd you get those drawer pulls? Where'd you get this and that? And I said to Joe Walsh, I said to Roger Daltrey, I said, you should get this cork flooring because you could drop a jar of mayonnaise on it and it won't break. That's what I said.
I thought you were going to say, and he did that.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, I need to test it.
He got it.
Oh my God, that's
I
so
love
funny.
it. Oh, it was so funny though. Like our friends are like, I'll bring over like craft services, like I work for you guys.
Yeah, everybody and their brother was volunteering. Like, I'll come over and make lunch. Well, they're not staying for lunch,
Right.
And the other thing was, my studio was in my teeny tiny garage. It was a very small room, and it was, so it was Roger. It was two producers. It was Roger's manager or something. We're all in this itty bitty studio. It's not meant to have that many people in it. And I had said, I don't have the fancy air conditioning system. This is just my little home studio.
Right.
I don't have the fancy air conditioning system where you can have it on, but it won't make noise.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Won't pick up.
Yeah. So I have to turn the air conditioner off every time we do a take. So I said, we can't do it on a hot day, and it can't be in the late afternoon. And of course, they schedule it for like 3 in the afternoon, and it's 105 out or some ridiculous thing. And we're all just sweating. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Roger. I'm so sorry. But he was a really good sport. He walked in and went, oh, okay. And that was it. And then he was a great sport, and he did a great job. He was the voice of a 7-foot-tall dragon that was designed by the guy who designed Big Bird.
Oh,
On
wow.
Sesame Street. Yeah.
Wow, you name dropper.
I know. So it
Big
was
names.
amazing. Like, it had a remote control thing to do its tail and all that. Like, it was a really amazing puppet, and he was the voice of it.
Cool.
Anyway.
Wow, very cool.
While we're puppet name dropping, our neighbor in North Hollywood was the original Barney.
Oh my God.
The guy in
He
the
used
suit?
to be the guy inside Barney, and he took it very serious.
Oh, he was so serious.
What does
He
that mean?
wouldn't get out of the costume for lunch breaks.
What?
Yes.
Because he wanted to stay in character.
So
How do you eat? Do they feed
He
him?
just
I mean,
wouldn't have lunch.
he didn't have arms.
Someone get the hose.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
Barney has to be the most famous person you've ever worked with or known, right?
The Barney.
No, yeah.
The OG Barney guy.
Were there
Yeah.
any other famous celebrities that you
You had the chance to work with?
not as famous as you, of course, but
Yeah.
Of course.
As a sort of celebrity.
Okay. Speaking of our neighbors, our neighbor in LA was Allie Willis, who wrote, among other things, the theme song to Friends.
Ooh.
She wrote a bunch of hits for Earth, Wind, and Fire back in the 70s.
wow,
Do you remember the 21st night of September? She co-wrote that.
nice.
Yeah, so there. How's that for name dropping?
There you
Laura?
go.
Yeah, let's just we'll just call this podcast name dropping.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I have a working with Robin Williams story.
Oh boy.
Oh, so
Name drop.
He did do, I know he did do Whose Line.
He did.
But
One of my
before
favorite.
Yeah.
And actually, I improvised with him at Second City before
Yeah.
you.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, ages
Nice.
ago. Yeah.
Oh.
But so I was doing this live gig. It was a benefit. And then Jonathan Winters was going to win this like Lifetime Achievement Award.
Uh-huh.
And so Robin Williams was presenting, because I don't know if you know, Robin Williams like just totally adored Jonathan Winters. He was his hero, his comedy hero. So Robin was presenting, and they gave him a little time to just fool around before, you know what I mean? Because it was Robin. So I was playing, it was me and Linda Taylor and a couple other people, and we were just like walk on and walk off music for the event. You know, there were different acts that did stuff and different people that honored Jonathan. But we weren't supposed to be playing with any of them. We were just walk on, walk off. Piece of cake. Fun.
Right.
So Robin, but I'd met Robin backstage before, and I said, oh, I do improv, and my husband met you at Second City and all this. And he's like, cool. So he gets out and he starts doing his thing, and he goes into his preacher character, and he turns around and he says, let's play a little gospel, sister. And I'm like, yeah, you know, like, I'm going to play some gospel with Robin Williams. But the thing that happened was, because we weren't supposed to be performing together, his voice was not in my monitor.
Ooh.
Oh.
Okay. So when he turned around and talked to me, I could hear him. But when he turned back to face the audience and then I started playing, I couldn't hear him at all. Nothing.
Oh, man.
And I had to improvise. Like, I literally was just watching how he was breathing and how he was moving.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
I was literally watching his back.
You're a magician.
Yeah.
Next level.
Yeah.
And just
Playing by
trying
sight.
to sort of guess, based on that.
Wow.
And I was like, I had no idea how I did because
And I was in the audience, and I said, that was so great. And when she told me she couldn't hear a word he was saying, I had no idea.
Oh my God.
Oh.
and I was just terrified. But afterwards, he turned around and gave me, you know, the big thumbs up,
Yeah.
like, great. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Of course it was great.
I did it.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, definitely. I would put that on, like, if your scariest moment of doing improv, I would
That's
put that
awesome.
up there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. So we are coming up on the hour mark here. But before we leave, I think there's a pressing question that I think everybody who's ever watched Whose Line wants to know. Who's your favorite cast member? Go.
Ooh. Starting controversies.
I know the answer to that. I know who you can say.
Okay, Rick, say it.
Yeah.
Colin Mockery.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Colin
Well-
just always cracks me up. I don't know what it is. Like sometimes even just a look or something. He just always cracks me up. Yeah.
Yeah. He
I mean,
But I mean-
they're all amazing. And I mean, like Wayne, really, there's no one on earth who can improvise music like Wayne.
Oh yeah.
You know, I
Which is what we tell our students that. It's like, if you think you don't want to do music improv because you can't do it like Wayne, nobody can do it like
Yeah.
Yeah, he is the GOAT of that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
No question.
But there's something about Colin that just
That's awesome.
And Colin is such a nice guy. And like when we went to Toronto to teach, we went to his house, and he's a great chef.
amazing.
And, and we had dinner with he and his wife, Deb McGrath, who's a Second City alum. And he's just the nicest guy. Yeah.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah, I heard that he was doing some kind of show that's kind of like psychic improv or something like that.
Actually, I played a few of them. It's really interesting. He works with a hypnotist.
Yeah,
And so
Hypnoprov.
they hypnotize them. They get audience members up. They get a whole bunch, and then he starts hypnotizing them, and then some of them get voted off the island because either they won't go under right or whatever. and then like they're left with like 6 of them, and then the hypnotists have them improvise with Colin.
Wow.
It's
That's
really
fascinating.
Yeah, it's crazy
It
stuff.
It's really, really amazing. It's crazy. And sometimes they'll improvise songs, and they'll like be amazingly good, or he'll have them do characters, and they'll like really get into their characters. They were doing one time when I did it where they were supposed to be like Colin was the bad guy and the other guy was the sheriff, and and they were like, go get the bad guy, and this guy was like ready to kick Colin's ass. Because he was all the way in it, and the hypnotist was like, okay, that's great. We got him. You know.
Well, it sounds like this is the workshop you need to do next.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Hypnoprov workshop.
I was gonna say, what's the
Selling across
future
country.
for Laura and Rick Hall?
Oh, yeah,
with Whose Line
yeah.
finally being really canceled.
Yeah.
What does the future look like to y'all?
Rick?
Well, actually, we're trying to figure out a two-hander thing that Laura and I could do. And I do a lot of storytelling. It might be storytelling. We have a podcast together called So Says Rick.
Oh.
And says is S-E-Z. And it's true stories according to me. They're true.
Uh-huh.
And Laura was just kind of my sidekick at first. And it's turned into kind of our thing. And but it's been on hold since we moved. I'm building this studio right now in our basement,
Yes.
by the way.
Nice.
While Laura's out of town, I'm building the studio, and we're going to get back to that. So I think some sort of version of that. We're trying to, honestly, we moved to Chicago. We're kind of reinventing ourselves, and we don't know what that looks like yet, but we're certainly not dead.
There you go. You got to keep that podcast going so you can keep doing that Joe Walsh impression.
Exactly.
There you go.
Hey.
Somebody touch my
And we're kind of reconnecting with the improv scene in Chicago. You know,
Right.
like IO Chicago just reopened.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is great because they had closed during the pandemic and
Right.
people weren't sure. So, like I played for their what they called the soft opening. I'm not quite sure what the difference is, but and you know, I've done a little stuff there and met with them, and I'm really excited to work with them and see what's next there.
Mhm.
And they've sort of given me a little bit of a blank check, like, what do you want to do? Tell us what you want to do, and we'll help you facilitate it, which is lovely.
Wow.
But it's like, it's nice to be, and I did a Baby Wants Candy show, you know, they're out of Chicago.
And we taught a master class at Second City.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're kind of finding our way back in,
Mhm.
which
Okay.
is really fun to be coming back to it
Yeah.
after being away for so long and and
Right.
sort of creating our life in LA. So we're it's really interesting and fun to be kind of reinventing what we're doing now here in this new place.
That's great.
That's
Well-
that's awesome to have like a lot of different avenues and outlets to kind of just do different things and see what kind of sticks. I think
Yep.
that's awesome.
And we are definitely looking forward to the workshop February 11th.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. That's right. Coming up. Yeah, almost sold out.
Yeah.
So
I've been saying JEST Improv and Laura Hall and Rick Hall are making beautiful music together.
that has been a
said this
tagline.
3 times on the pod. She's just her proudest crowning moment.
This is she prouder than this and her kids. Like she'll say it every single episode.
Well, we are really looking forward to
Yeah.
it. It's going to be a wonderful time. Do y'all have other stuff that you want to plug aside from the podcast? So
Yes.
says Rick.
So says Rick. Check that out.
Well, on my website, I've got all sorts of, I've got improv karaoke, which are tracks for people to do song improv too. I have a book that I wrote about what I do, you know, the musician side.
Right.
And then I created an online course during the pandemic,
Oh.
an online course about doing the musician side of it.
Nice.
wow.
Video course.
Yeah, a video course, right.
Nice.
Because it's so hard, you know, there's a lot of places to learn improv on the actor side, and there's not many places to learn it on the musician side.
Makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah, and improv groups always need musicians.
Oh, yeah, we need one.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Laura, are you free for a show next month?
Yeah, so I've had where like an improv group will get the online course for a musician that they want, you know, that like you sort of have to grow your own, you know what I
Right.
mean? Because
Yeah.
it's just people don't have the luck of what I did of working at Second City and just
Yeah.
learning how to do it that way.
Yeah, and it's
So,
like you said, it's kind of like a niche kind of thing to learn how
Yeah.
to do music for improv too. Yeah.
Yeah, and there and again, there's just never enough of us. 1 million of you guys, never enough.
There's plenty of you people.
You are a
around here.
unicorn, Laura Hall, and we love you.
And you're an amazing team.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
really, really, really look forward to working with you again.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We're looking forward to coming back.
Great.
Yeah. Rick, is there anything coming up for you that you wanted to plug? Or? Any shows or anything?
No, just I'm doing a show in Chicago, March 26th, a solo show where Laura and I will see how we kind of are going to work together.
Okay.
And then I'm auditioning, of course. I've got an agent here, and I'm auditioning for TV shows and stuff. So,
Nice.
although I am finding a lot of the characters start with the word grandpa.
What the hell is this?
I
I don't know what that means.
don't know either. So.
Yeah.
Aw.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank
you
you
guys.
so much.
It was really fun.
Yeah, it's been an awesome time getting to know you
Thank
guys
you.
better, and yeah, it's been we're so thankful to have you guys not just on the podcast, but being able to work with you guys and bring your workshop, to the Ventura County area, because I don't even know if that's ever been a thing, a musical improv workshop just in general, just around this area. But yeah, got a lot of people that have been wanting to do it, and so many people kind of reached out and be like, wow, thanks for putting this together. It's gonna be a really fun time. So seriously, looking forward to you guys coming out, and it's gonna be awesome. So
Yep.
thank you guys for doing what you do.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
See
having me.
you soon.
Bye-bye.
We'll see y'all later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.